Integrity. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. C.S. Lewis defined integrity as doing the right thing even when no one is watching. This is how we, most of the time, think of integrity. Integrity could be the simple action of picking up a piece of trash without being asked or without expecting any kind of reward, or it could just be as simple as being kind and respecting those around you. However, doing the right thing when no one is looking can be very hard sometimes. For example, you may feel silly picking up a piece of trash and throwing it away, but you never know who is watching you. And you throwing that one piece of trash can inspire someone else to do the same, and another, and another. It's infectious. Integrity takes years to build, but only takes seconds to damage. And this is a lesson that I have learned from my dad. My dad worked for NBC5 for 30 years and has been in the spotlight of cameras and the public for the majority of his life. On camera, he was very focused on his job, having integrity as a journalist to tell the truth to the public about situations and stories going on around the Metroplex and the world. Keeping his integrity meant investigating and digging deeper to get the true facts and translating both sides of a story to the public, whether he agreed with it or not. And he did this because it was the right thing to do, and in turn gained the respect and trust of the public. While my dad never broke his integrity as a journalist, others became jealous of how successful he was and began to create stories to damage his reputation. As you can imagine, my family and I were shocked when these types of stories would come up, but we didn't fight fire with fire. My dad learned a very valuable lesson from his dad, my pop-pop, when these types of stories would surface. And it was, don't argue with a man who buys his ink by the barrel. It is next to impossible to disprove a negative, and it is best to let it die on the vine. And the grace in which my dad dealt with these types of situations has resonated with me and helped me throughout my life. In 2008, I went to a one-week sleepaway camp called Camp Waldemar, and I went with my friends Claire, Maya, and Caitlin. We were all really excited, but when we got to camp, we found out that this mean girl was in our cabin, and she did not become my best friend. She became my enemy. And there was this water slide at Camp Waldemar, and it looked really tall to 8-year-old me, but I was too afraid to go down it. And this mean girl in our cabin decided to make fun of me until I cried, and then continued to make fun of me all the way back up to our cabin. And when we got there, our counselor was not there, so as my way of taking the high road, I locked myself in the bathroom. I could have fought fire with fire, but instead I decided not to be rude and not to damage my reputation. Because if I had acted the way that she had acted towards me, my friends would have seen me in a different light. A few years later, Channy and I went to the same camp, only this time we went for a month. And we were very excited to be assigned to the same cabin since we didn't know anyone else there. However, living in the same cabin for a month together did not go as well as we had planned. At the time, Channy and I had known each other for 7 years, and I knew she was susceptible to homesickness, much more than I was. And for the first week of camp, Channy cried a lot, and I did my best to console her as a good friend would. Unfortunately, I got annoyed after the first week of her crying, so I ended up throwing a pillow at her and telling her to be quiet. And this did not help anything, just if you were wondering. I let my emotions take over, and as a result, I damaged my integrity and my reputation as a good friend. Thankfully, my actions did not hurt our friendship, but we just found out that we would be better off living in different cabins for the rest of our summers at Waldemar. Last year, I embarked on my journey as a Cinderella candidate. As I had learned from previous candidates, integrity is everything, especially on social media, because people all around you are literally looking for the littlest thing for you to do wrong so they can turn you in. And believe me, there are people that do this. And it is the candidate's job to have full integrity and absolutely always do the right thing, especially when no one is looking. There were times during my campaign that I wanted to go out and be with my friends, but I remember that I had made a promise to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Arlington, so I went to the clubs instead. This turned out to be beneficial not only to myself, but also to the kids at the clubs. Hanging out at those clubs were so much fun, and I also got to build a reputation of integrity for myself. This was important because I wasn't representing myself, but I was also representing my family and the Boys and Girls Clubs of Arlington. And by doing this, the kids had someone to look up to and someone to aspire to be. And to do this, I handled every situation given to me with grace, and I have my dad to thank for that. So whether or not you have had experiences like mine, we have all been in situations where our integrity has been challenged. So I would encourage you to take a few of these words that are up on the screen with you so they stick with you in your head the next time that your integrity is challenged. And if you take anything away from my speech, let it be, do not argue with a man who buys his ink by the barrel. Thank you.